You're standing under the cold, bright lights of the airport immigration hall. Your flight just landed after 10 long hours. You're tired, your bag feels heavy, and your phone? It's on 3% battery. Then the officer looks up. He gives you that unreadable stare and waves you forward. In that moment, everything hangs on how you handle the next few minutes. Will you walk straight through with a smile? Or get stopped for a few more questions that could change your entire trip? Most travelers don't realize these questions aren't random. They're part of a pattern designed to quietly test your honesty and confidence before you even speak. The way you stand, how long you pause, even the tone of your first word, it all tells a story. In this video, I'll show you 11 of the most common immigration questions, what officers are really listening for, and how to answer them with calm confidence. And here's something interesting. A 2025 article explains how officers use psychological cues to spot nervous travelers. Once you understand that logic, you'll never see these questions the same way again. Stay until the end, because the last question I'll reveal is the one even experienced travelers fail, and getting it wrong could keep you in that airport for hours.
Question number 11. May I see your passport? It may feel like the simplest question at the border, but this one moment sets the tone for everything that follows. When the officer asks for your passport, they're not just looking at your document, they're watching you. How you reach for your bag, how steady your hand is, whether you fumble or speak hesitantly, all of it is being quietly evaluated. If you're digging through layers of clothes, dropping your boarding pass, or stuttering as you hand it over, you send a message of uncertainty. Instead, keep your passport in a spot that's easy to access, ideally in the front pocket of your bag or a dedicated travel wallet. When asked, simply hand it over smoothly and say something short and sure. Here it is, or, of course. That calm act speaks volumes. At immigration, your composure matters just as much as your visa. Confidence isn't just a nice bonus, it's your silent credential. One recent travel advice article explains how being prepared and orderly with your documents significantly cuts down wait times and improves clearance chances. So remember, your passport is more than paper, it's your first impression. And in that moment, you're not just proving you belong, you're proving you're ready.
Question number 10 is, how long do you intend to stay? This question might seem harmless, but it's one of the biggest red flags for nervous travelers. When the officer asks, how long will you stay, they aren't just listening to your words. They're watching whether your story sounds steady and believable. If you begin guessing, like maybe 2 weeks or perhaps 10 days, or add lots of extra detail, like unless my friend invites me for a week more, you send the signal of uncertainty. Instead, keep your answers simple and clear. I'll be here for 10 days, or just 1 week for vacation. Don't over-explain. Immigration officials are trained to pick up on hesitation, and when you sound sure, they'll move on quickly. A recent article on traveler interview etiquette explains that officers are checking whether your stated stay duration aligns with your visa type, your ticket, and your overall story. Consistency is what wins their trust. When you freeze, add extra info, or keep changing your answer, you suddenly become that traveler who looks like they might not want to leave on time. So prepare your answer ahead. Keep it short, confident, and exact, and you'll remove one of the easiest triggers for extra questioning.
Question number 9. Where will you be staying? When an immigration officer asks, where will you be staying, it might sound like a simple travel question, but it's actually one of the most revealing moments of the interview. This is when the officer checks how organized and believable your travel plans sound. Many travelers think they can just say something vague like, somewhere near downtown, but that small hesitation or uncertainty immediately raises a flag. It tells the officer you haven't planned properly, and that's exactly the type of traveler they want to question further. You don't need to memorize a full address, but you should know the exact name of your hotel or the person you're staying with. For example, say clearly, I'll be staying at the Pacific Hotel in New York, or I'm staying with my cousin in Toronto. Short, precise answers show that your trip has structure and intention.
Remember, immigration officers already have access to the accommodation details you provided when booking your visa or completing your arrival form. They're not asking because they don't know. They're asking to see if you do. When your answer matches what's already in the system, it shows consistency and credibility. A recent article explains that officers use this question to measure how grounded you are in your travel plans. Travelers who give confident and consistent answers are far less likely to be pulled aside for extra screening. The article also points out that being prepared with your booking confirmation or a copy of your host's address can speed up the entire process. So, before your flight, make sure you know exactly where you're staying and have your details ready. Speak calmly, clearly, and don't add unnecessary details. In immigration, the smoother your answer, the faster the line moves, and the stronger you appear. Coming up is one of the most overlooked questions, and it's the one that reveals your true confidence.
Question number 8. What do you do for work? When an immigration officer asks this question, it may seem routine, but it's far more significant than it appears. The officer isn't just curious about your job title, they're assessing if you have stability and ties that suggest you'll return home after your trip. Saying something basic like, "I'm a teacher," or "I work in marketing," works best. It shows clarity and root. On the other hand, adding too much detail, "I just left a job, but I'm looking for another soon," opens doors to doubt and extra questions. If you're between jobs, a good approach is, "I recently finished a project, and I'm taking a short vacation before starting my next assignment." That way you show you're structured, not drifting. Your tone and quick, calm answer say more than your words. A carefully prepared article titled Top Immigration Interview Questions and Answers 2025 notes that officers focus on whether your employment story makes sense, aligns with your stated intent, and sounds true. That means being brief, confident, and consistent helps reduce the chances of being stopped for extra screening. Before you reach the counter, rehearse your working status answers so you say it without hesitation. In the border zone, your job story isn't just background, it's part of the credibility check.
Question number 7. Are you traveling alone? At first, this question might sound like casual conversation, but in reality, it's one of the simplest yet smartest consistency checks immigration officers use. When they ask, "Are you traveling alone?" they already know the answer. Your flight records, ticket booking, and check-in details are all linked in their system. What they're really testing is whether your words match your data. A confident and consistent answer builds trust instantly, while hesitation or over-explaining can do the opposite. If you're traveling solo, say it clearly and calmly. "Yes, I'm traveling alone." That's all you need. If you're with someone, keep it short and factual. "I'm traveling with my sister," or "I'm here with a friend." You don't need to share names, reasons, or stories about how you met. The more unnecessary detail you add, the more likely the officer is to dig deeper. Nervous travelers tend to ramble. Confident ones don't. The key here is tone and body language. Keep steady eye contact, speak in a relaxed voice, and avoid awkward laughter or filler words like or basically. Those small signals can make you look uncertain even if you're telling the truth. A 2025 Travel Insights article explains that officers rely heavily on behavioral cues like hesitation and eye movement to decide whether a traveler is trustworthy. The more naturally and briefly you respond, the faster they'll move you along. So remember, this isn't about who you're traveling with, it's about how confidently you say it. Calm, simple, and steady answers make you look like a traveler who knows exactly what they're doing.
Question number 6. Do you have any family here? This question might sound friendly or casual, but it's actually a key part of how immigration officers measure your connection to the country and your likelihood of overstaying. When an officer asks, "Do you have any family here?" they're not just being polite. They're quietly assessing whether your ties are strong enough to make you want to stay longer than your visa allows. If you answer yes, they'll likely follow up with a few quick questions. Who? Where do they live? How close are you? None of these are meant to scare you. They're simply checking for consistency and intent.
The most important thing here is to keep your tone calm and your answers short. If you do have family, say something simple and factual, like, "Yes, my cousin lives here," or "My sister works in the city." If you don't, say, "No, I don't," and stop there. Avoid over-explaining or sounding defensive. For example, saying, No, I don't know anyone here," can make you seem nervous or dishonest, even when you're telling the truth. A recent 2025 article by Travel Off Path explains that border officers rely heavily on tone, eye contact, and posture to decide whether a traveler's response feels genuine. Staying composed shows confidence and honesty. Here's the secret. The officer isn't really judging your answer. They're judging your reaction. A steady voice and relaxed expression tell them you're being truthful. Whether your answer is yes or no, speak slowly, stay calm, and show control, because confidence, not your family ties, is what earns their trust. Up next, a question that catches even honest travelers off guard just because they don't know what it's really testing.
Question number 5. Have you been here before? At first glance, this might seem like one of the easiest questions to answer, but it's actually one of the most quietly revealing ones. When an officer asks, "Have you been here before?" they already know your full travel history. Your passport scans, previous visas, and even flight data are stored in their system. What they're really testing is your honesty and memory consistency. If you visited before, they're checking whether your story matches the record. If you haven't, they're seeing how confidently you say so. The best approach is simple and direct. If it's your first visit, say, "No, this is my first time here." If you've been there before, say something like, "Yes, I visited last year for a vacation," or "I was here 2 years ago for business." Then stop talking. Avoid long stories about what you did or who you met. Extra details might make you seem nervous or rehearsed, and that's when officers begin to dig deeper. Immigration officers are trained to notice small signals. Hesitation, eye movement, voice changes, especially when travelers recall past visits. Even a short pause or nervous laugh can create doubt. That's why staying calm, steady, and natural matters more than getting every date or detail perfect. Think of this question as a mirror. It reflects your composure. If you look relaxed, speak clearly, and keep your response short, you'll breeze through it. But if you fidget, over-explain, or stumble, even honest answers can sound uncertain. Confidence, not memory, is what carries you forward. If this video is helping you feel more prepared, make sure you subscribe right now. In my next episode, I'll explain what really happens when you're pulled aside for extra screening and how to get through it faster than most people. Question number 4. What's the purpose of your visit? This question is one of the most common ones asked at immigration counters, and it's not just small talk, it's a quick test to see if your story makes sense. The officer already knows a lot about you before you even speak. Your visa type, your flight details, and sometimes even your hotel booking are already visible on their screen. What they're really doing here is checking whether your answer matches the information they already have. So when asked, keep your answer short, clear, and confident. Say something simple like, "I'm here for vacation," "I'm attending a business event," or "I'm studying English for a month." That's all they need. The mistake many travelers make is trying too hard to sound polite or professional, saying things like, "I'm here on a short holiday to explore the country and learn about the culture." That might sound nice, but it also sounds rehearsed, and officers notice that. Your goal isn't to impress them, it's to reassure them that your purpose is genuine and straightforward. The calmer and simpler your words are, the more trustworthy you appear. Immigration officers listen as much to your tone as to your words. A confident tone tells them you know exactly why you're there and that you have no reason to hide anything. If you ever feel nervous, take a small breath before answering. It steadies your voice. In immigration interviews, confidence always beats perfection. Speak clearly, look sure of yourself, and move on. The shorter and steadier your answer, the faster the officer will wave you through. Question number 3. Do you have anything to declare? This question might seem routine, but it can instantly shift the tone of your entire interaction. When an officer asks, "Do you have anything to declare?" they're not accusing you of breaking the law, they're quietly testing your honesty and composure under pressure.
This moment matters because many travelers make mistakes here, not by lying, but by hesitating. Even a brief pause, nervous laugh, or uncertain look can make an officer suspicious enough to order a full bag check. If you're carrying something that needs to be declared, such as large amounts of cash, electronics, luxury items, or certain foods and medicines, say it clearly and calmly. Yes, I have some items to declare. Then wait for the officer's instructions. They'll guide you through what to do next, and being upfront usually makes the process faster and easier. On the other hand, if you have nothing that falls under declaration rules, simply say, "No, I don't," with a steady tone and relaxed expression. Don't add extra words or explanations. A clean, confident answer shows you know the rules and respect the process. Remember, customs and immigration officers are trained to read body language, hesitation, and tone far more than they rely on words. Trying to act innocent or over-smile often has the opposite effect. It makes you look uncertain. The simplest, most honest answer always clears you faster than any attempt to sound perfect. So before you reach the counter, mentally prepare your answer. Know what's in your bags and keep your expression calm. Confidence and honesty are your best tools for moving through this question smoothly. The final two questions are the ones that decide whether you breeze through the gates or get stopped for extra checking.
Question number 2. Can I see your return ticket or onward flight? This question might seem like a simple formality, but it's actually one of the final and most important checks at immigration. When the officer asks, "Can I see your return ticket or onward flight?" they're not just confirming your travel plans, they're checking for proof that you intend to leave the country. Every immigration system is built to spot travelers who might overstay their visa, and their ticket is the clearest sign that you won't. The best way to handle this question is through preparation and confidence. Have your return or onward ticket ready before you even reach the counter. You can show it on your phone or have a printed copy, but keep it in an easy-to-reach spot so you don't have to fumble through your bag. When asked, respond calmly and clearly. "Yes, here it is. I'm flying back on the 22nd," or "I have an onward flight to Singapore." That simple answer immediately shows that you've planned your trip responsibly. Officers don't mind if your ticket is flexible or refundable. What matters is that it exists. A traveler with an organized plan looks trustworthy and controlled. But if you start digging through zippers, scrolling frantically, or giving excuses like, "I'll book it later," it signals uncertainty. And that's when officers start asking more questions. Always remember, your return ticket isn't just a document, it's your silent promise to leave. Showing it confidently tells them you know exactly where you're going and when you're leaving. Preparation and composure in this moment make all the difference between a smooth entry and unnecessary questioning.
Question number 1. Have you ever overstayed a visa or been denied entry before? This is the question that makes even confident travelers sit up a little straighter. It sounds intimidating, and it's meant to be. When an officer asks, "Have you ever overstayed a visa or been denied entry before?" they're not trying to catch you off guard. They already know the answer. Every entry, exit, and immigration record linked to your passport is stored in an international database. What they're really testing isn't your history, it's your honesty and composure when faced with a sensitive question. If you've never overstayed or been denied entry, your response should be short and calm. "No, I haven't." That's all. Say it clearly, make brief eye contact, and don't add extra words like, "Of course not," or "Never, I would never do that." Those sound defensive. If you have had an issue in the past, don't panic. Be truthful, but stay brief. For example, yes, once a few years ago, but it was resolved. Officers appreciate honesty, especially when it's paired with a steady, confident tone. Trying to hide something they already know can instantly create mistrust, while owning your story calmly shows responsibility. This question isn't really about your past mistakes, it's about your current mindset.
Immigration officers want to see that you take travel rules seriously and that you've learned from any previous issues. The calmer you sound, the more credible you seem. So remember, the real test here isn't your record, it's your reaction. Speak clearly, keep your tone steady, and keep quiet confidence. In immigration interviews, how you handle pressure says far more about you than your history ever could. Immigration officers aren't trying to trick you. They're reading your energy, your tone, and how you handle small pressure moments. When you stay calm, answer simply, and keep eye contact, you look like a traveler who belongs there. So before your next flight, remember, confidence is your clearance and your best travel skill.